Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your attendance on this afternoon's webinar. This particular webinar is covering why you should use BTC's Company Secretarial software. We do actually have two webinars running this afternoon. We have this one, of course, and we have another one at 4 p.m. Which is designed to talk about the integration of Company Secretarial. So for those of you who already use Company Secretarial solutions, the benefits of using ours and having it integrated with the PM solution. So it's going to be a very, very short intro from myself. So my name is Dan Keane. If you do have any questions, we will have kind of a contact page at the end. And having seen the software, if you are interested, please do not hesitate to contact me. And then we can obviously discuss how you can add the Company Secretarial package to your existing license. So as I mentioned, it's going to be a very, very short intro, as I'm delighted to introduce you guys to Clint Smith and Kate Diggins, who are going to be taking you through the Company Secretarial and really are going to be showcasing the benefits of using Company Secretarial to handle all of your clients' compliance. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Kate and Clint. Now we are in completely separate locations, so if there is a kind of a bit of a delay on the handover, you will have to bear with me. But I am just going to hand you over now.
And Dan will be telling me now if you can all hear me. I assume you can.
We certainly can.
So we've set up two webinars this afternoon, as Dan was saying, one of which is for hopefully you folks who are doing your interactions with Companies House, your filing and your confirmation statements using their website, and the other later on for those people who've already got COSEC systems who we're hoping to lever over to our COSEC system, obviously. So what we're going to do now, first of all, I'm going to bring you into the home page of our system. So hopefully Dan again will confirm that that's happened.
Yeah, we can see that nice and clearly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Clint.
See that nicely. Okay, so we're off and running. So let's have a little talk about the way you do things now, and then just compare it to the way you do things, or you could be doing things if you're using our COSEC product or like this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you our bullet point differences and advantages of using a COSEC system using web filing. Now, clearly, you don't pay a specific fee per company to do web filing. So when you buy a system from us, you obviously need to pay a small fee per company. It's very fair. You get when you get into a discount band, you start paying immediately from the first company that's in that discount band. You don't have to pay for a whole new block of companies. We have quite a clever charging mechanism that. So what we need to do is to work out why it makes sense that fee is going to make sense in terms of your working life and your productivity as a practice and your profitability as a practice. So we're going to look at those issues. So one of the things, obviously, with a compliance thing is we're not going to make new profit from compliance, but what we need to do is try and make the job easier and quicker to do, and therefore get savings which are equivalent or better than the price per year of subscription for COSEC. And I think that's probably going to be one of the lead questions that's on your mind. So it's about organizing your companies. It's about getting the work done more efficiently, saving time. It's about offering a better service. And it's also actually about making sure that you're legally in a better place as far as your best practice standards are concerned. But we'll go into that a little bit later on. So I think at the moment you are used to the idea that you go on a Companies House website, you've got an account with them, which is the 11-digit presenter ID. That account will not change. You'll still be able to use that same, so you won't have to go through an admin procedure to come over to set it onto COSEC. And then you will be receiving emails, one for every company, probably if you're signed up for the reminder system. So you'll be getting lots and lots of emails coming through for your companies when their confirmation statements are due in a certain period of time. And then you'll be going on Companies House website and you'll be spending a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, just bringing the thing up, checking it's all okay and confirming it. Prior to that time, you will have, I think, most of you will have some kind of facility for getting in touch with your client and then saying, is all the filing up to date so that we can file this confirmation statement? Because don't forget, what you're doing with a confirmation statement in particular is you are underwriting yourselves, because you're sending it in, the fact that that client's filing is up to date. So you need to know whether that client's filing is up to date, and also in best practice, they need to know as well. So you will have presumably some kind of ad hoc systems involved for doing that. So what we're going to do, first of all, we're going to have a quick look at a little bit of instant time saving. So we're going to go straight into confirmation statements. Okay, so with your confirmation statements, quite a lot of our system is dynamic and moves and flows in and out of the screen. When we're doing a presentation like this over a webinar, because of the limits of bandwidth, etc., you'll find that perhaps it's a little bit jerky. In real life, it's really nice and smooth. All the transitions go really smoothly. So confirmation statement in a couple of clicks. Sorry, excuse me. If you go over to our COSEC, your data, your compliance data is on the COSEC system in the cloud. Okay. So what that means is that if you're doing changes on your companies through the year, or if your company has no changes through the year, when you get to the confirmation statement time, your confirmation statement data is ready to go. So literally, your CSO1s, as it says here, are created from information stored on the system. Changes you make throughout the year are streamlined with your automatic form filing that comes off the file, off the system. So if you wanted to do an appointment of director, you do an APO1 or something like that, you get the minutes off the system, you get client authority, workflow, and stuff like that. So all that work goes on through the year, and you're perfectly okay. So what happens then is that you come up to your confirmation statement, everything's ready to go, literally 2 clicks, a matter of seconds to get that confirmation statement going. So that's one immediate time saver. And an obvious one, and I think perhaps the one that most people go to with COSEC to start with. So that's the first one. The second one is now the client's authority to file. So you want to send the client, and people will be doing various things, from just sending them an email saying is everything okay, to sending them a full register pack and a detailed letter, etc. And you somewhere on that spectrum, your processes will be involved. What we do with the COSEC system is we pull out a client checklist, and it's a document that can be emailed straight to the client, and we will be looking at that in some detail, because that is a lovely document for making sure that all your data is more and more accurate as the years go by. The client understand it, very professional output, and again, it's just literally a couple of clicks to send it out, and the client's got it. So we'll be looking at client checklists. That's a really big plus on the system. Now, second of all, if you've got now a number of companies, you're going to have to manage your workload. So one of the other things which we've got in the CS solution is we have a workload a process, so that you can tick things through. You can start jobs off and say that they're pending. So if you're going through a process with a client, say a complex share allotment or something like that, or share conversion, then you can do the job and it won't appear on the registers, and it won't be ready to filing until the pending tick box comes off it. So you can do all that work, keep everything under control. It's a whole workflow section in there. There's also something we call the action station, and that is basically looking ahead and back 30 days, scouring all your data and saying, okay, I think you should be doing that, or I think you need to pay attention to that. Well, that didn't quite go according to what you thought it would, so you need to look at that again. So it's doing that for you and presenting you with a simple, readable English report. Okay, and then on top of that, you currently get an email, probably from Company House, for every company that you're involved with, for a reminder. You will only be getting one email, and that email is again system designed. So what it's going to be doing is it's going to be saying, okay, it's 30 days for filing. We're going to put your company on for 30 days. We're not going to just rehash tomorrow's scheduling list being 1 day later, because that would be like spam. So every day's reminder is like yesterday's moved on a day. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're saying, as that company gets nearer and nearer its deadline, if you haven't done the work yet, it's going to appear more and more often on your email reminder. So it might appear 14 days, 7 days, and then 3, 2, and 1 days, so that you'll become consciously aware that this company is getting urgent for its accounts filing or for its confirmation statement, without all those emails looking the same every time you get one. And you'll get fewer of them because you're only getting one a day covering all your companies, rather than one for each company as and when it's coming round according to the Company's House list. So there's plenty to do on advantages on workload management. The next thing we're going to be looking at fairly shortly is what I call the obvious source for dividends. So if you've got your registers on a computer system that you have access to, then that computer system, very, very straightforward to leap from there and say, on a certain date, these people held shares in this class of share that I want to issue a dividend on. And so literally on this COSEC system, and we'll show you that shortly, is you enter the amount that we call them the punters come through the door. They say, I want to give out £5,000 to my shareholders this month. So you put 5,000 in and the date, and bingo, you get an instant collection of dividend vouchers, and you then get a report entry for the distribution itself, all calculated from just those two numbers because it already knows the shares. And then at the year end, you've got an exportable table, and all your clients for all your private companies appear on one report, all with their dividend totals for that tax year, all ready to go on their personal tax returns from a single source. So the obvious source for dividends, we'll have a little look at that. The other thing which we have, and particularly we have on our COSEC, that isn't that none of our competitors have got, partly because it took us 8 months and we went grey to work out how to program it over here in the COSEC office, is the PSCs are literally, you will never need to do another 25, 50, 75% calculation. Never make a mistake over trustees in trusts or joint shareholders. It's all completely automated, simply from the same share record that you're getting your dividends from. So a lot of data being used in a very powerful way. So we'll be looking at that. Next thing we'll be looking at is minutes and resolutions. Hopefully you're all aware that when you send something to Company's House, it doesn't make it true. So if you appoint a director, send in an APO one, a director appointment form, you are just telling Company's House that that's what you're doing. It has the legal standing of a birthday card. It has no legal standing whatsoever. And if you appoint directors without the underlying minutes signed by the existing personnel within the company, that person has not been appointed. If you allot shares without the underlying minutes or resolutions signed off properly, those shares have not been allotted. So you need to be very careful to make sure that your minutes and resolutions back up your filing at Company's House. And again, we use the same data, all the share records, all the officer records that you need to hold as statutory registers by law anyway. They're on the system, and so the creation of minutes is literally a run through of a quick questionnaire, and then you've got bespoke minutes for the client to sign. Your transactions, as I mentioned earlier, are under a pending status. So whilst they're pending, the minutes go out to the client, come back, and then you can do the filing. Everything is best standards. You're kept safe and the client is kept safe. So minutes and resolutions of the system, PSC automations, dividends, workflow, very quick filing. Okay, so all of those for around about £5 a year per company. So it's a big plus to go with the COSEC system. It's not just about doing confirmation statements. Okay, so if we've got time, we'll look at this in detail. But clearly, the reason to go for the BTC COSEC system is because you don't want to have disparate systems where you have to keep two sets of data up to date, enter the data twice, make changes twice. And so with the BTC COSEC system, once you've got your directors and company details into your BTC, into COSEC, you can then port them over in a very simple operation. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of time at the end to show you how that works. So that you've only got one source of data, far fewer errors, far fewer opportunities to make mistakes, much less time dealing with data, making sure everything's okay and checking things. So synchronization with the BTC software is what should be driving you as BTC customers to the BTC COSEC solution. Okay, so we will have a quick look at that if we can. Also, we'll be looking at a tiny bit, if we've got time again, company formations and technical work. There are those cases where you do share conversions and complicated things like that. We work in conjunction with First Corporate, and they act as our company formation system. So if you form companies through this COSEC, they'll be formed, the certificate of incorporation, the full mem and arts, and all the data will merge into the COSEC system, because the COSEC system has its own onboard cloud library to keep those documents in a single place. So all your compliance work will be immediately accessed from the COSEC cloud library. So what we do then is, hopefully what you can do, if you like what you're seeing on this and you want to take it further, we can do a specialized technical Q&A answer with you, session with you, using the specialist COSEC team, as we rather arrogantly label ourselves down here in the office in Cornwall. It's only because we do so much of it. Okay, so that's what we're going to have a quick look at. And this, hopefully you can see, is the home page of the system as soon as you've signed in. And if Dan, if you're still on, can you confirm that you can see that? Okay, maybe Dan's not on any longer.
Yeah.
Just assuming that you can see. Yeah, you can see it. Okay, that's fine.
Is it the
okay,
action
so this
station,
is the home
yeah?
page. Yeah, this is the action station.
Perfect.
So the action station is, as I mentioned earlier, the thing which scours all your underlying data and works out what you need to do. Okay, so one of the things we do as well is, it's not all use having a flash system in your office that does all this stuff if the data isn't the same as the data at Company's House. So we have a couple of options here, one of which is check fix every company date. So you get a huge report of all your companies, and then you can click on the links if you find there's anything that doesn't line up. Usually it does line up, and the reason I say usually it does line up is, in the background right now and 24 hours a day, all the companies on our servers, and that's 350 odd thousand of them, are being synchronized with Company's House. So all the key dates are being checked, and we do a few other things as well. One of the things we do is we check to see if Company's House today have said that the company is on the strike-off list for the publishing on the Gazette. So we can then use that information by comparing it to yesterday's absence of that information to tell you straight away if any companies are coming up on the strike-off lists. And we know from practice that quite often it can take you quite a long time to know that information if the client's registered office isn't at your premise, because you don't get told. And in a few cases, there can be some proper panics or even one or two disasters. So in future, with this software, you will be notified within 24 hours that that event is coming thing. So you will know that's an issue off the table. Okay. Again, here are some of our pending transactions. So some of these are going to have old dates, because it's very hideously old data that I'm using for the demonstration. So I've gone into pending dates here, and I'm now going to go back up to the action station, and we're going to start looking at some of these bits of information. And the first one we're going to look at is obviously to do with the confirmation statement, because that's the thing we're all interested in as bread and butter for this system to earn its money. So I'm going to look at my companies. I'm going to pick up one called Zoo Limited. And so this is a company now, and we want to find out about this company. So we have two bits of data for it, one of which is its details, and we are storing all that information that's at Company's House, plus quite a bit of other stuff as well. So like your contact addresses, so that you can email clients out of the system, etc. Your staff arrangements. Some of you with larger practices can have up to 3 levels of staff, and companies associated with that, and email reminders and filtering down also only to the companies you're involved in. Won't affect those with up to about, say, 50 or 60 companies, but after that you might have a staff structure which can be accommodated for this. One of our, I think our largest accounts around about 3,000 companies on this system, so we can certainly accommodate any kind of practice manager staff allocation, stuff like that. But things you would expect to find, which would be the registered offices, etc., etc. Quite a bit of interaction between the the data within the system. So I've just clicked a thing there because any address within the system can be copied to any other address, for instance. So husband and wives in the same place, people moving their service addresses to your office, etc., all just a couple of clicks of the button there. So the other one we have, it's called Connections. Connections is a brilliant screen because it's got loads of stuff on it. And so essentially it's all the people who are connected into the company. So we have your directors and secretaries, your current shareholders, share allotments, share transfers, share classes, PSC register, dividend distributions, the all important things we were talking about earlier, we're going to have a quick look at. So all that lot as data, we can get it from one place very easily, and that's Company's House. And Company's House have a gateway, and they enable us to, oops, I've just clicked the wrong button there and gone to synchronize all dates. Hold on a second, Company's House. Oh, I've done it twice. Hold on a second. Is it Friday? No. Company's House, download and compare. That's it. So this is used very, very frequently by everyone except me, apparently. And it is effectively a way to look at Company's House and compare data on the system, or to upload new companies into the system. So you're not involved with a huge amount of data entry to get your CoSec account working. In fact, all you do is you send us a spreadsheet with all your company numbers on it and your filing codes. And if you want to, you can add the company name. And if you want to, you can add the client reference. And if you want to, you can add a whole staff structure and whether the client files their own and all sorts of things. We send you a template spreadsheet, fill it in with your company numbers and filing codes, and then we upload the whole portfolio overnight and you're ready to file the following morning. So very, very straightforward onboarding process to get your companies onto the system. Okay. So that's how we do that. So we've looked at a tiny bit of data, and we have now going to go, and we've looked a little bit, tiny bit about how we get the data down from Company's House. We've looked at how that data is continuously synchronized for critical dates, and the critical dates work with the action station and the workflow and the email reminders to make sure that you hit all your targets and it's very clear the work that you're supposed to be doing. So that we've covered it very, very quickly because there are nearly 1,500 web pages on this system. It's absolutely enormous from that point of view. So we are just skimming over the top. So we're going to go to the confirmation statement filing. We're going to look at this thing called the client checklist. Okay. Oh, it says I've got to get a 11-digit character. So no point in doing it in filing if we haven't got an account. So I'll fill something in. It's got to be 11 digits. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0. And the password 0. So that's obviously a completely fictitious filing code. You'll recognize it as the same filing code that you currently use for filing for your account at Company's House anyway. So there are no extra fees for filing filing confirmation statements or anything of that nature to this. It's all exactly the same. What you get is what you see is what you get. You only pay one price. There's no there are no chargeable extras or anything like that. No chargeable fees from Company's House. Nothing is that you still have your existing relationship with Company's House. So back on our filing, going to the client checklist, and this time it's going to let us do one. So I'm going to save and show it, and we're going to have a quick look at this. Okay. So here we have client checklist. Now, the top part here is one of our latest additions to it, actually. And it's just really a testament to our appalling sense of humor. You can now put your own practice logos across the top of this document, which means when you email it to the client, you don't really need covering letters or anything like that. You can just go straight out. It's a self-presenting, self-evident document of why you're sending it, what the information is that you want the client to return. And as you saw, having got my presenter IDs in, it was just a couple of clicks to generate it. So here we go. What's it formed? It's basically describing the company to the client, and it's doing it in 3 sections. So it's basically saying, the top is saying this is what we need for your filing. This is some notes. Okay. Now you'll all have had the experience where people say, I don't want my directors, I don't want my residential address showing at Company's House. So one of the jobs of the client checklist is to try and cut down that question by answering it on the checklist itself. So hopefully, I mean, there's always a chance that people will actually read the thing and will actually read this and then not bother you with that question because it's explained here. So that's the first and most minor point of the client checklist. The next point of the client checklist is the confirmation statement. If you send that out, contains no information about directors, company secretaries, registered offices, or anything else. So you're going to file a confirmation statement that says everything's up to date, but you haven't got the basis to do it on, because the information that you send out on a CSO1 is not fit for purpose to do that. This one is based on the old annual return and essentially covers the directors, registered offices, shares and that. And it goes, these are the notes, this is what you've got at the moment, and would you like to tell us about any changes? Okay, these are the notes, etc., etc. It's all the way through, and when you get to the bottom, they get a proper signature box, and they and you share that information. So you know when you sent it out, you know who in the office sent it out, and this confirmation statement checklist is the second most used thing on the system after the confirmation statement itself. It's extremely popular because it's very clear to the client and it covers all bases. And the final thing that it does is, because it's so clear and easy to do, once a year at least, your client data is refreshed by the client and by you. So it helps you keep your data up to date. So if somebody's got married or moved house in the year, they haven't told you, they've changed their service address or something else like that's happened, then essentially you're going to get to find that out. You're going to get to find that out through this client checklist. So it helps bring that data up to date, which helps, you know, obviously with everything else. You can download it straight to your virtual signature systems, or to your you know, for sending out to some of the sort of more Luddite clients on paper, or you can download it as an encrypted PDF, give it a password, and then it's GDPR safe to email in its own right. So you can email it straight out to the client. So that was one of our bullet points on here. So we've synchronized data, and we have up the top here very fast confirmation statements, very clear client checklist. We've looked a little bit at management. Okay, so the next thing we'll have a little look at is dividends. And oh no, I think I might click the wrong screen. There we are. Let's go back into there. There we are. So I'm going to come out of this one now. So that's the client checklist. Once that's returned to you, literally filing CSO1 confirmation statement. Here it is. All the data here is being, obviously, if you've got any errors, it's going to come up with a bit of red and show you the problems with it. You get here the option to tick for a no change. Quite often we like to send in the thing with the full list of shareholders and statement of capital, because it covers that problem where a company gets a new shareholder or a new director and they can't get their money from the bank because the filing at Companies House doesn't show them. So it helps reduce that if you send in the list of shareholders and statement of capital. You get the choice and you can send that in. So there it is. There are literally, apart from that choice, it's ready to go. So it's literally pull it up on the menu. Client check. Hold on a second. Confirmation statement. Confirmation statement, and go submit. So I'm going to press submit now. It's going to fail because we put in a ridiculous presenter ID, if you remember correctly. So it's done that. It's protected against double filing, and here it's failed straight away because of an authorization failure, which is what one might expect. But this is now your email, your e-filing record. So instead of having lots and lots of individual accesses to filing records through Companies House, you've got it all in one place, and it's a controlled, managed environment. So you've got your failed submissions in red. Eventually they go black if they get old enough, because you don't want your screen covered in red for ages. And then you've got green ones where they succeeded, etc., etc. So you've got very good e-filing control. You can check for all your companies, or you can check for just the company you're currently working on. And all the tables on this system are exportable to CSV. So there isn't a table on the system that you can't get a spreadsheet equivalent of the data that's on it. So for instance, if you wanted to pick out all the dividends that everyone's had in a certain tax year, I don't know if this is going to produce any results or not. That table, you can then just print and export that out straight into a spreadsheet. We'll come back to this report in a minute because we're about to do dividends straight away. Okay, so here we go. We've got the company. We're going to go into our connection screen where we find just about everything. Go over to our dividend distributions, and I say, sorry if it's a bit flickery on the in the real thing, it's moving across nice and smoothly. So here we've got some dividend distributions. Okay, so this one, 10th of August, there. I'm gonna pick that one up. It says it's been distributed. Okay, so what we've got on our system here, in a couple of places actually, and the places we've got them is where you've got multi-step procedures, so that you can have a go, and if it gets wrong, you don't have to delete hundreds of share records, for instance. You've just got a correct and rerun button, and that will do it for you. So here, this dividend distribution has been created on the system from a requested amount of £5,000, and it's produced some vouchers, some dividend vouchers like this. It's worked out who the shareholders are and what their proportions are, and given them some money. So if I go over to my distributions again, here we are, and then I'll pick it up. I say, oops, that was wrong. Actually, that was supposed to be £6,000. So I've now effectively reset that whole thing, and I can just say, okay, I'm gonna send them £6,000, and the year ending is that year ending. That's all filled in from the system. So literally, it's the date of payment is the only thing we want to go. It's not August now. We're going to go up for the November, let's say. Okay. So now what we're going to do, make the voucher. Well, we can put it in pending if they need it. And essentially, what I'm going to do though is I'm going to go make the voucher records, and that's it. So here are the voucher records, and we are going to go over, I think, back into my connections page again and look at them nicely there. But for a moment, this is what it produces. Okay. And these are tailorable. So again, downloaded encryptable, and this is the whole batch. I think, have I picked the whole batch? I did. No, and I'll pick just one. Okay, so this is a typical dividend voucher that's been created. It knows the dividend payable. It knows who the shareholder was at that point in time. Now, let's go over to our connection page. Notice with our system as well, we've designed it for accountants, and there is a sort of easy to use approach, which says basically we'll send out people down steps. But the thing is, if you're a professional accountant, you already know what to do, and what you really want to be able to do is jump around the system to areas that you want to pay attention to. So in this case, I'm going to look at the connection screen. I've got one dividend voucher here, but if I look at my share allotments, I've got 4 share allotments and 3 share transfers. And the reason we've only got 1 dividend coming out is because of this pending category here. So these things, they're in process, you're working on them. You don't want them to be interfering with things like dividends that might be going on in the process time. So we have a pending tick box to ensure that things have moved from one status to another, and to change it is very, very straightforward. So I'm going to just leave you with that a second. Right to the home page, and we're going to look at something called My Office templates. Okay, and one of the things which we can do, okay, with my add a template, for instance, is go and look at hold on, templates. This one. Oh, I haven't put a template in, have I? Okay, so I'm going to go add a template. And we can have dividend voucher. So if you don't like a look of our dividend vouchers, you can design your own and put them up. Same with share certificates, and in fact, client checklist. So here's the client checklist, and that wording, which I was describing to you earlier, about the directors, for instance, and their residential addresses, you can customize it. So if it's too long or you want to put extra things in, by all means, you can do that yourself. And you can add in even a little note for the disbursements if you want to charge your clients £13 or whatever it is at the moment as a filing fee for the CSO1, and you want to gather that from them before you do the work. So there's customization in terms of the output designs that you can do, as well as the jobs that those outputs are producing for you. Okay, so if we go back to our bubble, in some ways I'm kind of thinking that the the dividend distribution was so simple and quick to do that you might not have seen quite what happened. So we've got the dividend distribution here. It's now redistributed again at £6,000. It's done on the 10th of November here. So if I look at the distribution payments, oops, what have I done there? Dividend distributions, edit the distribution. Oh, it's look it up. Yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm just being told I'm doing it wrong. Okay, so what did it do? Let's have a little look. Where am I? I'm in the connections page, am I? Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I've got one here. So I'd have to pick it up and restart it again. I'd have to correct it and rerun it. And as I've got myself in this pickle, I'm going to do that anyway. So off we go, picking up the distribution, make the vouchers, and literally it's as simple as that. And you can see down here, it's produced the vouchers on the certain dates. And on this case, the only person holding shares in that particular share class was this lady, Christina Terrence. Okay, so that's why we go through here. We've got different share classes on different dates, and these are historical ones that have been produced when more people held the shares than just that one individual. So you've got a back record here. So for instance, I pick up this distribution from August, which predates a transfer more recent than that. Here we've got 1, 2, 3 dividend vouchers all ready to send off to the client. Okay. So that's that. So I'm going to close on dividend distributions there. Sorry, I was slightly vague, sort of slightly wrong-footed. And we're going to go and look at a different topic. And that topic is going to be PSC automation. Okay, I'm going to bring this up now. When you do your PSCs at the moment, you have to do your PSC 01 to 9 forms, and you have to work out whether a person has 25%, 50%, or 75% of the percentage, or they're not PSCs at all. And then there are special rules for trusts and joint shareholders, corporates, etc., etc. So bit of a headache. Certainly was in 2016 when it came in. There was of course a lot of confusion, and it slightly confused us. So we decided what we were going to do was we were going to automate the entire process. So we don't store, unless you wish to, any PSC data on the system itself. You can add PSC records, but essentially PSCs are done on a fit and forget basis. So if I look at my situation now, with my shareholdings, I've got 4 of those, and all these transfers. I've got a current shareholder list with just that single person, because all the other work is pending. Okay, so if I go to my PSC register, there are no pencils, and you can pick her up as an individual. This has been worked out. She's a 75% PSC, and consequently, she can remove the directors. We look at the share classes. She holds shares in ordinary, which are the voting shares, so she's got the voting rights as well. So in that very simple case, it's produced a PSC register from that data, from the share allotments and share transfers data. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to just unpending some of these items, so they're now actually going to come into the actual process. So here we've got one here, Katie Holmes. I am going to say no, this is no longer pending, and save it. And then immediately as we go along now, our current shareholders are Katie and Christina, 10 and 25. If you're good at this stuff, you'll know one's a 50, I think, and one's a 25. But we'll just see what the PSC register makes of it. So here we are. We've got Katie holding 25% of the shares, and Christina holding 50 to 75% of the shares. But actually, she's the only one with the voting share class. So she's got 75% of the voting rights and 50% of the shares, because she holds the ordinary shares and Katie holds the ordinary B shares, which don't have the voting rights. So it's clever enough to work out the different percentages between those that do and don't have voting rights, where you've got particularly those family companies where the children don't get the voting rights of the shares yet. So that's that. So we're going to go a little bit further, and there it is reflected here. Christina with the ordinary voting shares, and here the ordinary B shares. So I'm just, before I go any further, I'm just going to do something. So this one has no voting rights. So I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to show you something that moves towards getting more accurate data in the practice. Okay, I'm going to click that to say that it has got voting share rights. Okay, so we have a report in our system, and it says select all voting share classes. Okay, so this is a little bit works on AI or pseudo AI technology, and essentially it reads the prescribed particulars and it tries to work out whether the prescribed particulars are telling you that share class has got votes or not. And here it's saying here it's picked out is entitled to 1 vote. So it's read that and worked that out and learnt it. It's got, this one says full voting and equity rights, but you've ticked it as saying no, it doesn't have any voting rights. Here I've got my full voting rights here. Here it's read it and said, hang on a minute, it says not carry a right to attend and vote. So it's picked that out due to its learning processes and said, hang on a minute, I think that might be a share, that shouldn't be ticked as a voting share class. So you can go, once you've got your companies uploaded on batch, you run a single report and you can find out straight away whether you've got all your voting share classes sorted out nicely. So here we go, I'm going to go back to my connections and have a quick look at where we were with our current shareholders. And we're going to go to another one now, and we're going to unpending this one. Okay, so what we're going to do now is ordinary B shares, non-voting again. Cliff Richard Singer, he is going to have his shares made live, and we're going to see what that does to the PSC register. Okay, so it's going to be 2 of them with ordinary Bs, Cliff and then Christina. So now it's getting a little bit more complicated. It's difficult to look at that straight away and know anything other than that Cliff is probably a 25 to 50%. So we've got on PSC register and see what it says. And she, Kate, is a 25 on her voting. And then Christina is here. She's got I need to change that share class back. Christina's got the 75%. But when Cliff came on board on the 31st of March 2018, her status finished there as a 75%er, and she's now a 55%er. Again, no one's typed anything in. This is all completely automatic and out of the way there. So what I'm going to do is, I haven't made the amendment to the share class it told me I should be making. So I'm going to untick this. There. So I'm going back off, back into my share allotments. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to undo the last one. This one's a big shareholding, so we're going to go 100 shares. It's really going to change the picture. Okay, and these shares came in on the in 2019. So over to the PSC register again. The old historical stuff is still the same, but then on 2019, Cliff, he ceased being a 50 to 75%, and he is now currently the sole 75%er in that company, and so on and so on. I think there is very little that it won't actually do in those terms. So one of the things which I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up this one. We want to go, and we're going to unpending these. And the only reason we've done enough on this now, because we're so short of time, that I'm just going to show you this ever so briefly, just to answer those questions which I know are probably out there that I can't hear them, and that is, take the pending off of that. We're going to the PSC register. I've got an entry here which is not something I'm particularly interested in, so I'm going to delete it and go. So now I've got some, I'm in a share center, I've got some allotments and I've got some share transfers, and these are joint shareholders, and this is a family trust. Okay, so if I look at my people, show people, I'll just have a look at, find the trusts. Yeah. Let's just try that. So these are the trusts. So this trust has 3 trustees, and as you know, with your PSC filing, the trustees are the people you have to report, and it's the same on your statement of capital, on your annual, on your confirmation statements, etc. The trusts themselves must never appear on a confirmation statement, only the trustees. And, and just as a matter of interest, deceased estates are not trusts, they are estates. But that's a different ballgame altogether. So this trust has 3 trustees, but one of the trustees is the person themselves. Okay, so just a final look on the confirmation statement. Connections on the PSC register. I'm so sorry. We will go down through here. What we find there is Cliff. We left him at 75%, and now he's moved 50% of his shares to the 3 trustees of the trust. Okay, but also, where is he? He's here because he is now, from that date, so I roll properly, he is also now a shareholder in the trust. So he has interests on his own and a shareholder interest in the trust, and the PSC automation deals with all that as well. So PSC automation, have confidence in it. It's very sophisticated. It took, I wouldn't say billions of pounds to develop, but it was a huge exercise to make it. And it's the only company secretarial system that has this level of automation anywhere near that's available. So that's PSCs. Let's have a little look what else we've got. Okay, we can do a tiny bit. I think we've got 10 minutes or so left. So minutes and resolutions. Let's have a quick look at minutes and resolutions because they're very, very straightforward. And the hardest thing for me is going to be the getting this webinar to swap screens nicely, but we'll see how we get on. So here we go. Just before I do that, we've done some changes for PSCs, etc., and those changes have been automatic. There's no data underneath it. So in order to do our filing, we need something that automates our filing, or we won't be able to find them to file. Okay. So here, under normal circumstances, you can pick out a form and do some filing. So registered change of accounting reference date, AAO1, very common form. And there it is for you to do filing all filled in. Here's a copy for the client to sign. You just go file electronically, and there it is ready to go. And where I press submit, off it would go to the filing queue again. I could do it, and there we are. It's in, and it's failed on authorization. In fact, actually, it's failed because it's I didn't put any data in it, but it's essentially gone over there. So when we're going back to filing, we were, if you remember, in this connection screen, and we were looking at the generation of automated PSC registers. So what we need to do now is it would be very handy if the system told us what we needed to file, and that's exactly what it does. So if we go through here, system scours the data, and it says, oh, well, this then really needs this form. So we have PSC04 change forms for Cliff, for these. So it's worked out the forms that you need to file. Here's Abigail Smith is a new PSC because she's a trustee of that trust. Here we have something that can't be filed because there's some missing data. Okay. Here, as we go back, we've got a full history in here. So going back into 2019, we did a registered office change of address, etc., etc. All these things then get older and older and fade to be grayer and grayer. So the stuff you're interested in, generally speaking, at the top of the list. If you've got issues, you need to go back and look in the past, you can do so. If you've got problems with some data, you can click on the problem, and it will take you straight to the person's details, and you can fill in the details. As you can see, this person has hardly any details available. So let's say that their service address is at our place, etc., etc. So that's her. So that's the filing center. And again, a lightning tour of that. Essentially, it's an automated way for you, where the system tells you what filing you need to do. Okay, and that filing, if we go to the home page and go My Office Action Station, if it's within the past few days or the next few days, it's going to have, here we are. Okay, so this is a filing center. It's gone in, the action station has gone in. It said, oh, you've done a submission today and it failed. So it's come up in the action station. You need to pay more attention to it. Yeah, you've got pending transactions here, which again, I think I unticked everything in our Zoo Limited one. Oh no, I've got an old dividend there that's waiting in pending. So My Office Action Station. And here I've got a confirmation statement. Again, it failed. and 2 companies here with Striker. So the action station is earning its living by analyzing constantly in real time what your workload is supposed to be, and you can expand it out to be to show more days. So here we've got one here as a strike off notice there 36 days ago, or just 30 days. So action station, really popular thing, very clearly tells you what's at the top of your agenda, and your filing is automated or by your own choice. Confirmation statements with the client checklist and confirmation statement itself, and we can then back up everything, as I said on this one, minutes and resolutions. And so it's very important to do your minutes and resolutions very straightforward. So for instance, we go into dividend distribution, pick up the dividend minute and say, okay, it's actually this most recent one I want to do, and I never minuted the previous one. So we're going to go to the minute details, and then you've got various ways that you can minute things. And we've done this very comprehensively, because generally speaking, this will only be important if they start arguing in the client company and people start falling out, in which case it might become very important if it ends up going to court. So we have done our minutes and resolutions with counsel from London, and they are perhaps a little bit longer and more wordy than some of our competitors, but they will do the job if they are called upon, and that's the important thing, because if it won't do the job if it's called upon, might as well not have produced it in the first place. So we get a choice of ones to do. I'm going to do the big, well, I think I'll just do the directors meeting. There we go. So those are my distributions. You get choice of meeting location, obviously. Just going through here. On who's, it's all pre-filled for you, the you know, in attendance, etc. The only thing we can't do, obviously, is declare people's conflicts of interests if they have any. And then this is what it's going to do. So it's going to make a minute there, and I'm probably going to call on Dan to say, can we see the minute if I actually make the document? So that's it. Document's made. I can see it. I'm going to download it. I'm going to open it with Microsoft Word and then continue. And what it will have done is, as we have a single source for all the work that's been done for the company in its own onboard cloud library. So here we've got the confirmation statement that we failed earlier. We've got the accounting reference date submission that we put in, and now we've got a minute here for the dividend distribution that we just picked up. None of that actually makes sense, because it's, you know, we were working like that in an office, we would deserve to be fired. But nevertheless, it's the information is all up there in the cloud, and you can do it for all companies, and you can actually upload additional documents that you want to put in there as well. So nice single source for all your compliance documentation in the cloud. Okay, so that's that one. And we are going to go now and see. Somebody's going to tell me if this works or not. I can't. Yep. Screen show, and then I'm going to go Microsoft Word. Woo. Hopefully you can see Microsoft Word and you can see a minute in there. Dan, can you tell me if that's true?
Yes, that's true. Yeah, we can see that. Yeah.
It is true. I'm a bit of a Zoom boy myself, so when it comes to doing these things, they're all slightly different. So I'm going to go back to the system, and here we go, BTC Software Solution, which is it, this one? Oh, CS Solution Cloud, here we go. Yeah, there we go. So hopefully we're back in the system. We're back in the system, Dan?
We're back in the system, yep.
Perfect. Okay, so that's that. Hide that away. So lots and lots of other features to look at, which when we've run out of time, we're not going to be able to do so, including all sorts of unlimited staff. You can have this. We don't charge. You can have everyone in the practice can have a sign-in, and they can be anything from read-only to full admin users, and we have full control over whether they're sent deadline reminder emails, etc. So you get a lot of control over that. So it's just about out of control, out of time. Oh my goodness! I'm so sorry, people. I've got to do another one of these at 4 o'clock as well. So, all sorts of things in there. Say nearly 1,500 odd pages of stuff, web pages in there. HMRC Form 42, all sorts of minutes for that. Share certificates, all the electronic filing that you do, transfer of shares, allotments, dividends, waiver releases, which we now do by letters instead of by deeds, because you can't, I'm not allowed to do them by deeds anymore. We have a thing here called the Register Centre that we're quite proud of. It shows you what we think are the, we might call them the prettiest of the registers of the COSEC systems that are available. I'm going to increase the size of this if it works. There we go. So here we have a register of directors, very nice presentation standard, actual registers, which are a legal requirement for you to have. Notice that we do things as well. There's a peculiarity again with the PSC registration and legislation. We have on the PSC register, you have to put the person's residential address, and you have to make that register available for public inspection. Under GDPR legislation, you're not allowed to display the person's residential address, so you're stuck. You've got to show it to people, you can't show it to people. So we produce a register of PSCs with a service address, but we also have a second variant of that, which is one, of course, it's a massive PSC register now, one with residential addresses as well. So we've got around that in those things, to say countless other bits and bobs, and we are talking around about £4 a company, £4 or £5 a company a year, or something of that nature. So I think, and I hope you agree, that the cost benefit is pretty much a one argument, I would hope. So yeah, so perhaps look forward to hearing from you. We're out of time on the synchronization. We did discuss it briefly on the way in. We won't have probably time to show it now because we are literally 1 minute to go. But essentially, when we onboard our companies, okay, we get information from Company's House. So if you can envisage one of the typical situations, a new punter comes in through the door, and so you sit him down. This is in the old days before we all had to wear masks and things, and you get his information there and then from Company's House, and then you can look at it and he can agree that that's correct or not. You can do immediate changes on COSEC if necessary, bring it all up to date, and then you go over into the BTC accounting platform, click on the CS Solution button, and import that data into CS Solution. You'll get your directors' appointment dates, you'll get your service residential addresses and all that heavy typing stuff coming over. You'll get your company information, the registered offices, and key dates. And don't forget, when you've got your dates in there, because those dates are being synchronized by us every day at Company's House, and they're incredibly reliable, when one of the options with the CS Solution import is to synchronize, that is not to upload new stuff, but to resynchronize stuff from COSEC into your main BTC platform. So the reliability of the dates that are being synchronized over 250 times a year at Company's House in COSEC comes through into your BTC platform with that same level of reliability. And that's now time for me to sign out and hand over to Dan. Thank you very much. I have to wake him up, I think.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I did hear that. Thank you very much, Clint. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, that was fantastic. That was a really brilliant webinar, and I think some really useful tips and ideas into why utilizing a company secretarial module is key really for your practice. Are you okay to kind of answer a few questions?
Yes, by all means.
Questions? Okay, fantastic. So I don't know if we're going to get through all of them, but we've just got a couple of questions here. So what happens to the fee of £13 to Company's House for filing confirmation statements?
No change. We don't charge it. Company's House will continue to bill you for those filing fees.
Okay, and what about the recent Company's House rule changes permitting remote meetings?
That's an interesting one. I'd have to go into that in some depth, which I can't really do that now. I suggest that whoever's asking that question just comes up to us separately.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, not a problem. Yeah. I've got one that I can answer here myself. So we use the desktop version. Is there any difference? This is completely cloud-based. The desktop software that you're using at the moment will be the PM solution, which covers all the accounts production, corporation tax, self-assessment, and practice management. It still will integrate with Company Secretarial, even if you do have the desktop variant, as we do offer the PM solution or the solution suite in 2 variants, in that you've got the desktop version and the cloud one, whereas the COSEC is just only cloud-based. There isn't a desktop version of Company Secretarial. And I think that's probably all the questions that we've got time for. As I mentioned, what I will do is I will just share my screen with you now. And these are the details if you do want to get in touch. So as I said, following, having seen the software, if you are interested, please do contact myself or Tim to discuss how you can add the Company Secretarial to your existing license. We'll be happy to discuss your options, your client numbers, and then we can look at adding that to your subscription. But I think that will draw a close to this afternoon's webinar. So thank you, Clint. Thank you very much for showing us the Company Secretarial today. And thank you everyone for your attendance. And hopefully we'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.